Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
When does serial innovation happen? It happens when you're in the same product segment. You're doing innovation every 10 years or every 5 years depending upon how the product is going forward. Today we're going to discuss the bullet dispenser, which is center part, which is the big, what I show you as the bigger product. Though the Z-line was so successful, it swarmed the market. All the petrol pumps showcased the Z-line petrol pump. So what happened? How could you actually upset that, or how could you offset that and come up with another product? Is a very important lesson for us, and please see how this happened. In fact, when I was doing it, it was like research for me. I was doing research in this area to see how I can come up with a methodology for innovation. So same products, across different timelines, and you're taking it to the next level of innovation. So here, why I'm showing you this serial innovation is specifically because finally it is the users at the multiple levels of users, how they are actually accepting your product and how they are demanding and requesting for your product. So very interesting thing happened. Once this Z-line was very popular, and it was already 6 to 7 years, and I got an offer to join as faculty in IIT Delhi to start a new program in design. So I accepted the offer. I moved from Larsen & Toubro to academics. And then I started doing a lot of programs for industry on telling them how creativity is important for engineering, how innovation methodologies are critical, how design thinking is very important of making those wonderful models to understand design details. So while doing all that, the competitor's head of R&D was in one of my exposure workshops for industrial design. So here, for example, when I was looking at all these research and document, I found that there's a life to a product. So it's ethical if you start working on a new design in the same domain after the lifespan of that product is over. So the lifespan given to the Z-line pump was 6 years, and it was already 8 years when Midco came to me. So we said, please come, we will work on this project. So he sent his CEO of the company here. The top management support is very important because the innovation process, it's a very expensive process, right? The expenses build up while you go in the process. The idea and design phase is not very expensive. Whereas the prototyping phase and the mass production phase is very expensive. And just imagine when a company is not doing well, will they have enough money? The CEO of the company was in the family business. So he took special loans and said, I have to spring back and I have to work with the best in the country, including collaborations for various engineering components, and we need to spring back. So this Mr. Arup Chatterjee, who's the CEO of the company, came back to IIT and said, you have to work with us. Now that you're a faculty, you should work with us and you should produce a pump. They didn't say at that time that you should replace the Z-line or whatever. They said you have to design a pump so that we also can be in the market. All on the same framework what I learned in L&T. Remember, I was very clear. Contemporary materials, understand users to the best possible way, bringing up creative ideation. At every stage, let it be manufacturing, technology, creative ideation is a must. So these 3 pillars were used every time. So we use the same 3 pillars again for this process. So we took it as a student project and we started the journey. Now look at what Midco was selling. This was what they were selling before the Z-line came up. This was 3 years ahead of the Z-line, and after Z-line came up, nobody was buying this pump. Our electronics was superlative. Our shape was phenomenally new. Our manufacturing was excellent. Our quality control was very, very good. And cost was low. Cost was low because we designed for low cost sort of production. Every part of the sunflower model, that petals I showed you, were excellent. So this pump could not compete. So when compared to Z-line, you're seeing that the Midco is a very small company, 1/100th or 1,000th of the size of Larsen & Toubro. And what was the advantage is it was a single product company. They had no other business other than petrol pumps. And they came into petrol pumps after manufacturing gas cylinders. We need three important things when a new company comes in. You need to have investment in manufacturing, investment in human resource, and biggest challenge is that human resource for design was very difficult to get. And then we looked at, customers were far more demanding over the years. So it's already 8 years since we did the Z line, and a lot of things changed in 8 years. And remember, I was telling you about giving you the example of laptops last time. Every year we're getting laptops which are better, cheaper, much more capable than your earlier laptops. The same phenomenon. After 10 years, a lot of things changed. So we need to look at everything in a new way. So luckily, as soon as we started the work, the company was very aggressive. See, you all know innovation happens in war-like situations. Midco, completely out of market, starving. So now, within IIT, luckily one of my students agreed to do this project. Manoj Dubey, he was my student at that time in IIT Delhi. He was the third or the fourth batch of design program over there. So Manoj took up this case. We used the same formula of ideation, how we took inspiration, how we made multiple small models, how we did CAD modeling. Today I'm going to discuss the management and the collaboration issue more in this, because all others are constant, whereas in the Z line I didn't talk about that much because the L&T had all the structures inside very well. What happens when the designer joins the company? You get tremendous amount of synergy to take the project forward. So Manoj Dubey had joined the company with Midco. Then Midco started a new department in design. So when you're doing innovation, sometimes your old human resource is not good enough for you. You have to bring completely new people. So Midco completely hired new sort of staff, new staff for doing design, CAD modeling, because all they didn't know how to use CAD to take products forward. So this was completely a new setup outside where the design was supposed to be taken care of. So now look at the interesting situation. You have the display, which is large. You have the hose coming from the top. You have a vertical organization. Earlier there were boxes, right? Now you got a vertical sleek look. So the organization and form is very, very critical. And you had to come up with a new design. Why do you think there's, you're able to dispense faster fuel from this?
More pressure with the hose from the up.
More pressure from the up. That's a good point. What else? But I have more head, no? If I have more head, will I get more pressure?
But there's a motor pumping it all the way to the top.
Anyway, the motor is pumping. Very good. The motor is anyway pumping, so I took it up. But then why should the delivery rate increase? For example, the Z line was giving us 45 liters a minute. So you can service 500 cars a day. Whereas this pump was giving us 55 liters per minute, nearly 20% more. You could service 600 cars a day. So 100 cars more is huge business. And what are the other advantages having the hose from the top? Tell me.
More range.
Excellent again. You get more range. That is, you can go much farther and fill petrol in the trucks and cars. What else? What else is the advantages of having a hose from the top?
You don't have to lift the pipe.
Damn good. The pipe is so heavy. There's 2 liters of petrol in that pipe. So 2 to 3 kilos is the petrol inside, and the hose is made out of rubber. And hoses are very heavy. Like if you carry them, they'll be some 8-9 kilos. So just imagine the whole day that guy is lifting this hose 500 times to fill petrol in cars and dragging it along is quite a job. So now what you have? You have a hose which is hanging from the top. So the load is not coming onto the person's hand. The fellow on the top is taking all the load. So range is high. Excellent lightweight. The operator, who's my secondary user, is very, very happy. He's not tired at the end of the day. What else?
Doesn't get tangled.
Doesn't get tangled under the tire. So generally cars go on top of the hoses and the hoses get damaged and you have to replace the hose every year. Here, there's no chance of any damage. You all understand what is a chassis, right? Frame. So this whole pump was built on a chassis. Then it had this, convenience for mass production. I'll come down to that a little later again. It had a large display fascia. You saw that large glass and large fascia was very critical because at that time we had this large TVs coming into the market. So people were very tuned to seeing large displays, and it satisfies the international norms for safety. Midco very early told me that we want to export this pump all over the world. So the standards have to be met. And when standards have to be met, explosive standards are very stringent. You need to have something called an air gap between the electronics and the hydraulics. So can you see that air gap in the middle? Why do you need an air gap between hydraulics and electronics? Any guess? Any sparking in the electronics can produce fire and explosion, because that environment in the bottom is rich with hydrocarbon, rich with evaporated petrol or whatever. So you need to have a barrier between the two, and that was an important norm. We used computer aided design a lot, and we had very, very high accuracies and very, very high modular design. So how computers helped us was, once you make this structure we could fit a single pump and double pump also. What's the advantage of this? Again, less number of parts. And Midco is not a company like L&T which had all its manufacturing in-house. So what they were doing, they were getting components from the vendors. So when you were getting components from vendors, it makes sense to have modular construction where you can have the same components again and again. Look at this whole array of first prototypes. In fact, as soon as Manoj joined the company, while he was in IIT, he produced this one first pump. After coming into Midco, he produced all these pumps which are all different. It's a mechanical pump. So can you imagine the advantage we have of putting a mechanical register into the same body? Why do people use mechanical pumps in rural areas, tell me?
Electricity.
Severe problem of electricity, and they crank, you know this? Yeah. They crank and they dispense. At that time, power was a serious problem. So just look at the beauty of this design. Manoj could actually fit a mechanical register in this, and and have this all the advantages of the new design and the advantages of modular construction. Very, very cost effective. And then you had the dual pump, both sides pump, and the single side pump. So we had all the options over here. So let me quickly show you now the results of the research. So this was research, right? So while Manoj was in the company, I was finishing my research, and I think, how does this success happen? So this is the model we developed, which I showed you earlier also. The core team, the enterprise-wide team, and the network team. Very important. Any project you do, even if you're doing a BTP for your project, if you follow the teaming, you will get phenomenal success, and this happened regularly every time. And then what happened with this success, you need to also divide your stages into multiple stages. First you have ideation, multiple concept generation, prototyping, mock-ups. So all those stages are also important. So while you have this collaboration across teams, you also have steps in going through. And now look at these team members. The core team is made up of Manoj Dubey and 4 other engineers, CAD engineers, prototype engineers in the company. A very small team. But what was the bigger team was the enterprise-wide type cross-functional team. This was very, very big. Look at the beauty of product planning in Midco pumps. What was there? From mechanical pump to single pump to double pump, and I'll show you one more, to premix pump. I'll tell you what premix is a little later. So we had excellent product planning. The companies survive on investment, right? How much investment you do on your prototyping and on your different components on your manufacturing. So investments are low and you have large range of products. That is very critical. Now there's a chassis, right? So use less sheet metal, and the chassis was cheaper than using sheet metal to mount, because chassis is very strong. And look at these pipelines. The same pipe I'm using 2 times. And this pipe is done using special aluminum alloys in special CNC machines. And now coming to my hose on the top, L&T was using cast iron conduits. What happens inside cast iron? The inside surface is rough. Aluminum pipe, inside is smooth. When the surfaces are smooth, you have much better flow. So our hose, which is giving 55 liters per minute from the top, actually is being aided by the smooth aluminum pipes inside also. Look at the air separator. This is the air separator. This is the meter. And these are the copper pipes for the air separator, and this is the motor. And how all this is possible? Because of CAD. We could develop the modular system so well, and CAD was used extensively.